Hey everybody, this is Elenbaas from Night Astrology, and you're listening to your sun sign horoscope for Taurus for the month of September. So this is a new thing that I'm doing. I've been doing a written version of sun sign horoscopes for a long time now through astrograph.com, which I'll show you in a minute. But I've decided to make a video version of these since I'm trying to work to expand my YouTube channel and create more video content. So let me just give you a quick look at Astrograph, which is a really cool, it's a really cool website where you can actually check out time passages astrology software. Now, time passages astrology software is something I've used in my own practice for a long time. It's one of two different software programs that I use regularly. It was the first software program I ever started using, and I highly recommend it for beginners. And they have a variety of different packages you can check out. I write for them as a guest horoscope writer. I've been doing it all of 2018 and hopefully should be doing it in 2019, but we'll see. So at any rate, you can check out the horoscopes, the written version of your horoscope here. You can also check out what Henry Seltzer is writing. He's a fantastic astrologer who's spoken at my programs and who was actually one of the first people to inspire me to start doing the daily kinds of horoscopes that I write in a more mundane general sense every day. You can check out the column here for your month ahead. The same version, the written copy, will be under the Taurus glyph. So you just click on that and then you can read what I wrote. And Henry has a nice little overview that he does as well. So let's go ahead and we're going to go ahead and dive right into the month of September. So September gets started around September 3rd. There's going to be a nice connecting sextile between Mercury and Venus. So this is happening between your 4th and 6th houses. I'm going to annotate this for you. I have to warn you in advance that I'm a horrible online artist, but there you go. So the two of them are connecting between your 4th house and your 6th house. First of all, it's a really nice, short, sweet little transit where the god of communication, Mercury, Hermes, is connecting with Venus, the goddess of relationships and love. So, and they're connecting through a harmonious sextile. So you'll notice around this time that the flow and ease with which you're able to communicate might be heightened. It's generally a good time for making negotiations or finding agreement or making a deal or just sort of coming to terms with somebody, finding a solution or compromise. So it's nice if you're writing something or speaking publicly. It's an indicator of ease, grace, and success in communication. So that's nice. But the other thing is that with Mercury in your 4th house and sextile to Venus in the 6th, this could have something to do with communication regarding people that you hire or maybe some work that you're doing in your home environment. 4th house, the house of home and family. 6th house, the house of employees. So it could also have something to do with work, your daily work life and home life, and maybe the two coming together somehow. Maybe you're finding a way to work at home a little bit more. Maybe you're finding a way to rearrange your daily work schedule so that you have more quality time with family or more quality time for your private life. You could also see the topics of family karma coming up in general, conversations or communication about family matters in just a general sense, or anything related to home improvement again. And then Venus in the 6th, there may also be elements of service here, some element of healing or creating some kind of positive change where you've been dealing with something that's been nagging or burdensome. Sometimes the 6th house has to do with things that burden us. The Venus in the 6th is a great planet for finding some level of ease or relief from something that's been burdening you, even if it's something as simple as your daily routines. So at any rate, that's a nice little transit to open the month. And then going forward, the next big transit is on September 8th, and that's going to be a square between Venus in Libra and Mars in Capricorn. That's happening between your 6th and 9th houses. This now brings in Mars, exalted Mars, very hardworking, kind of intense, ambitious Mars in the house of higher religion, education, long journeys, travel. You have to excuse me, there's like one fly that's just, so he's like dive bombing me at certain moments. So at any rate, your house of higher education, long journeys, spirituality, religion, with first of all, Venus Mars square can also always bring up sort of sexual or creative tension or a little bit of conflict in relationships, because Venus and Mars, the masculine and the feminine, are in a square. Squares are of the nature of Mars, a little bit more conflict oriented between the two of them, but it can also be nice, creative kind of tension. Now, sometimes that means you got to be careful because you're falling in love with your teacher, or you're not able to focus in the workplace because you're getting into debates or arguments about your beliefs or convictions with coworkers. You could also find a mentor during this time, or be becoming passionate about learning something or a new form of education. You could be thinking about travel. But again, you could also be dealing with very mundane topics like your daily work grind, people that you employ, things that you work on. The sixth house has a theme of service involved with it, and a square to Mars in the ninth house. You might be thinking, how can I put myself to work in service of my beliefs? So how do I translate my beliefs into some kind of practical service or help for the world or for others? That's also potentially sort of well indicated. But you also maybe just be figuring out, as things are about to, Mars is just about to ingress into your career house, and Venus just about to ingress into your seventh house of relationships. You're also on the precipice of trying to rethink work and relationships. Those are two things that are really strongly indicated, and you'll see that later on as I go through the month. Those things are going to be coming up. So thinking right now, maybe there's philosophical and practical changes that are happening. You're rethinking something, revisioning something, and trying to make those revisions very practical. It's a part of your daily routine. All right, so going forward from there, let me erase those drawings. And going forward from there, the very next day, there's a new moon in Virgo in your fifth house, opposite Neptune in Pisces in your 11th house. Now, the new moon energy in the fifth house is nice for things like creativity, for the topics of your children, or if you have them, or any kind of leisure activity where the real focus is, how can I have fun, or how can I be happy, how can I make or create something. The fifth house is a house of joy and pleasure. It's also a house of creativity and performance, and then you have things like children and pregnancy wrapped in there as well. So any of those topics can be really strongly emphasized for the month ahead, probably in a pretty good way, because you also have Mercury, the ruler of Virgo, exalted in the fifth house right now. So it's a nice kind of feeling in that house that those topics may be, you may be feeling quite good about those things right now. But be careful, because the opposition to Neptune in the 11th house might mean that you're also experiencing something of a sea change with regard to 11th house matters, which would be groups, friends, wishes or hopes for the future, allies. So are you going through some kind of social sea change right now? Are you reconsidering your long-term dreams or ambitions? And there may be some confusion around some of those things. Trying to keep clear boundaries with Neptune in the mix is not always easy. Trying to discern truth from fiction, not always easy. But also, there's maybe some emphasis right now on creativity in groups, or social circles, and your ambitions or long-term dreams or goals changing, maybe in relation to fifth house topics like creativity, the need to experience pleasure or joy, your children, things like that. So these are some broad topics for the new moon that are going to be toning the next 30 days. But in the fifth house, again, the fifth house topics are really sort of well indicated because of Mercury being exalted in that house right now. So at any rate, let's go ahead from there. And we're going to go to September 12th next. Now on get my artistic tool here. You'll see on September 12th that Venus is opposing Uranus from the 7th house to the 1st house. This is a really big moment for relationships. Venus in your 7th house of relationships next month is going to go retrograde, which means there's a period of review, revision, and change, either for a partner or in your romantic life or in an established relationship that you have. Could also be a business partnership. So there's going to be review, revision, change, growth, some lessons may be involved in relationships next month. But prior to that, on September 12th, Venus will oppose Uranus in the 1st house, bringing up things like conflict, disruption, unexpected or sudden changes in events in relationships. The sort of a foreshadow of next month's Venus retrograde. But you're also generally looking at events like independence versus dependence in relationship. You might be feeling the need for greater independence very strongly right now, whereas a partner may be wanting to have more of you. Venus and Scorpio in the 7th really loves that deep emotional contact. Uranus and Taurus in the 1st, your 1st house, wants, so you might be feeling like you want a little bit more independence. So the question of independence versus dependence, sexual or relational issues, in general, changes, challenges, but also innovation and creativity, and even some maybe healthy rebellion in the mix of this one. All right, so we'll go on from there. And on September 18th, here we go. On September 18th, you can actually see that the same exact square is going to come up, at this time from Mars in your career house to Uranus in your 1st house. So now we have the same kind of emphasis on the need to individuate, to break free, to be more independent, to start something new, to do things differently, to think outside of the box. Very personal for you ever since Uranus entered your home sign of Taurus in May of 2018. But now Mars, who has been retrograde all summer long in your 10th house of career, is going to square Uranus and demand that there be some kind of swift, fast, or sudden changes, or, again, defiance and rebellion are sort of indicated here, or the need to assert yourself in the career area, or maybe you come up with something really inventive and you want to implement it, and there's this really strong kind of yang energy that's coming through to help you do that. Either way, though, it's a time where, again, the themes of independence, individuality, change, transformation, and usually with a tone or mood of rebellion and innovation is present. It can be actually quite an electrifying transit for a career. And given that you've had a retrograde all summer long in your career house, you have been thinking, what am I going to do going forward with my career? Or you've been doing new things or stepping out in some way, asserting yourself more forcefully perhaps, or feeling stuck or blocked and trying to work through it professionally. And this may represent a kind of culmination of that experience and some liberation or relief or implementation of things that you've been working on for a while. Mars went retrograde in your career house toward the end of June, didn't stop until the end of August. Around today, actually, Mars is going direct. Okay, so that's happening on September 18th. Then on September 22nd to 23rd, roughly, you can see by the 23rd, the sun is going to enter Libra and pass through the fall equinox, placing the sun in your 6th house for a full 30 days. That might mean a lot of hard work. It might mean topics about employers or employment, employees, the daily work grind could be a real topic. The sun sort of shining a spotlight there, not only for the next 30 days, but for the whole autumn season. Remember, the equinoxes and the solstices always sort of tell you what to expect for the whole season ahead. So there is some theme there of your daily work life being really important going forward for quite a while now. Then what comes after that is that there's on the very next day, you could, oh, by the way, the theme of service and the desire to help others could also be a big part of the sun in Libra in the 6th house for the next 30 days in general. Now, the very next day on September 24th, then you're going to get a full moon across the Aries-Libra axis. So right like that on September 24th, And both of those are making a T-square to Saturn in Capricorn in your 9th house. This one has more of a feeling of personal spiritual crisis or transformation, and the relationship to faith or to beliefs or to higher studies or education, maybe the topic of travel or long journeys. But the 6th and 12th houses often bring up more personal healing issues for us. They were traditionally the houses that were related to the malefic planets Mars and Saturn, which often bring up kind of inner confrontation and conflict. We have to look at our shadow material, or we're dealing with the nagging patterns in our life that keep kind of wanting to drag us down a bit in the 6th and 12th. However, the 6th and 12th are also full of the themes of service and compassion and healing and the desire to help people who are less fortunate in the world or whatnot. So, but with those, that full moon in the 12th and the T-square to Saturn in the 9th, you are looking at, you might be facing some inner shadows, but considering how, where things stack up in terms of your beliefs and commitments spiritually, or perhaps to a course of learning or something like that. But it's a very intense full moon with a T-square to Saturn. It would be surprising if there wasn't some very positive personal growth that didn't come out of this one for you, even if you have to really take a hard look at some things internally and really see how where you're at in your faith life, in your spiritual path, and you're especially in terms of needing to perhaps commit more on some level to your spiritual path. All right, so that's what I've got for you for the month ahead. I hope that this was interesting. Remember, you can check out astrograph.com and check out the Time Passages software, which I recommend. I work for them, so I might as well recommend it. I'm using a different program now, but I use Time Passages. This is Solar Fire that I use, but Time Passages is a great program. It's a little bit more cost friendly than Solar Fire as well. So at any rate, you can also check out my work at nightlightastrology.com and see what I'm up to there. So we'll see you next month. We're talking about Venus retrograde in your 7th house next month. All right, take care.